leaders based on what happened after stage one. Andy Scarano out of Georgia in the United States is ahead on 23 points. Barrington Bailey, the Jamaican, on 17. Jerome Forrest on 12. And Corey Morissette in fourth spot on 8 points. So we expect a brilliant day of racing today. Kynan Cook, long-time enthusiast of the sport in Jamaica, is with me. Welcome back again. Yesterday was a pretty long day. Today is expected to be a little bit longer.
Yesterday was a good day. Today promises to be a lot more exciting, even more so than yesterday. What we're going to see today in this race is we're going to see a lot more debris on the route. There are 4 climbs today, and there are 3 King of the Mountains prizes, which are cash prizes for the summit of each of 3 of the 4 mountains. And that's going to encourage riders to go real hard, and that pace is going to split the field apart early today. So we're not going to see a bunch coming to the line like yesterday. We're going to see splinters of small packs scattered along the route. So it's going to be very exciting to watch. Today is going to be breezy again like yesterday. So we're going to have the headwinds to contend with, and we're going to have the mountains. It promises to be a real exciting day.
Andy Scarano is in the red jersey, and the leaders are given the red jersey after each stage. Or the leader is given the red jersey after each stage, so he brandishes it. He has 23 points to his name. He's come a far way to be here, Scarano, and he really stood out yesterday, didn't he?
He looked by far the strongest rider in the field yesterday. That's largely down to, I think, the 706 team from Atlanta played their cards really well, and their tactical approach to the race was superior to any of the other teams. It's interesting to note that the Jamaican national team has 2 teams in here, 10 riders total, and they found themselves in a position that they were outfoxed by a smaller team of 5 riders. We had the firepower as a Jamaican team to control and dominate the race, and we found ourselves defending or chasing the race when the 706 team from Atlanta went out on the attack. I'm sure that the national coach, Adrian Clark, is going to have recalibrated and had a discussion with his guys today. And hopefully they come with some different tactics today and take the race, control the race more and make the moves rather than follow the moves today.
Yeah, we realized that, okay, a couple of the riders were kind of just gauging the course, and we saw them being a little bit cautious in the opening stages. They're going further on this occasion. Where would you see them being more cautious today?
The caution I think is going to come from the 706 team. They have the lead now. They are the team to chase. So we're going to see them,
including Scarano
yes,
in the red.
I believe
right.
We're going to see the 706 team sit back today and watch what happens and respond to what happens rather than taking the action, taking hold of the action and setting the pace as they did yesterday. They're going to respond today and probably counter-attack rather than go on the offensive. They have that luxury. It's up to anybody else who wants to win this race to go and make the move and make the action today. So I think we'll see a more defensive ride from the 706 team.
Which could mean that it's a little bit slower.
I don't think it's going to be a little slower.
So you can be defensive without actually being okay.
Yes, they're going to sit. They're going to more sit in the pack, and you're probably going to see them attacking less unless they know that there's an opportunity for them. I think it's up to the other teams, the Jamaicans specifically, to take the control of the race and dominate and dictate the race to the rest of the field.
Off here, you were mentioning a couple of Jamaicans who could take on the hilly terrain better than outside of the top 10. You expect to see a few new names in there?
We may see a couple, yes. We have the likes of Amit Raj, who is a very good climber. We have Maduri, I forget his first name, I think it's O'Neill Maduri. And we have Russell Small, who we should see making a good appearance on the climbs today. Also Wayne Smith of Montego Bay we should see him on the climbs today, featuring pretty well. We can expect a lot of damage, and it will start early. The race will probably still be in some compact group as we get into Discovery Bay, but on the way back we're assured to see it tear apart.
Well, it's beginning to stretch in the opening stages as teams try to jostle for positions. You see the red jersey, easily identifiable this morning, thank goodness. Carano has decided to take a route more inside than the others. And we did mention before that the wind is easterly at 15 miles per hour. So again, could be a little bit difficult, but
so it's a little less breeze than yesterday.
yes,
yesterday
it was 17.
but 15 mile an hour breeze is still a very it's still a very strong breeze. So they're going to have that to contend with for sure.
Of course, the coast is to the left of the riders, so that cross breeze could very well be an issue. But the fact that it's heading easterly, that means that they're actually going into the breeze at the moment.
They're riding into the breeze at the moment now. And what we saw, which was very interesting yesterday and a bit disappointing, is that we didn't see any of the other teams attacking this race with the apparent intention of winning or doing anything. We didn't see anything from St. Vincent. They had a rider in the top 10.
Antrobus, Lucky Antrobus. He may be the one in front at the moment. Not sure. We'll get that confirmed. But yeah, a couple of them would have been expected to be thereabouts, and they just faded away.
We would have expected to see some of the other teams making some of the moves. All the moves were made by the Jamaican team and the 706 Atlanta team. Hopefully we'll see some change of tactics today by the other teams, trying to go for it, if even to get a podium place or try and get a stage win here. What we are going to notice, which could make the race a little, handicap the race a bit, is that there are two teams dominating the action, the Jamaicans and the 706 team from Atlanta. What we could see is that these two teams have riders up front and the race becomes pretty boring because it's a two-horse race.
Right.
So I think we're going to see some alliances between the smaller teams, the St. Vincent teams and the other local teams, joining together as a larger group to work against the Jamaicans and the 706 team. They will need to make some kind of camaraderie or some kind of alliances and work together, because they're clearly, by yesterday's evidence, they're outnumbered and they're outgunned on the road by the 706 team and the Jamaican squad.
We're about 4.5 minutes into the race and no pattern really discerned as yet.
Today is a very long day, and we're going to find that the action may start a little later down the road today, because it's yesterday being a short day. We saw attacks from the gun. We may see attacks coming a little later on today.
So they've just passed the Holiday Inn Resort, of course, one of the sponsors, one of the major sponsors of the Jamaica Cycling Classic, and across the road would be the Hospital Montego Bay as well, that they will be passing. So it is a scenic route, and you just saw the aerial shot of Montego Bay and St. James. A lot of hotels would be on that stretch as well, but they would have ridden past the hotel that they would have stayed last night, and that would have been Holiday Inn. So it's not too far away. It's literally a 5.5 minute ride from the starting point at Witter Village.
Well, they're going to be a long way from home.
Oh, they will be.
On today's travels, that's for sure.
Interesting question though. Would they ride home after competing at Witter Village, or would they
certainly
happily go into a car and
after riding 85 miles, 138 kilometers.
What's another 5 minutes?
It won't change much. And it's often more of a pain in the butt, and a lot more work to pull your bicycle apart and put it in a vehicle than to just ride it back to the hotel. So we'll have everybody riding home. Who was that? very far. He's just out there probably exercising his legs and seeing what can happen.
Yeah, we did see him have a discussion with Andy Scarana at the beginning, and I'm sure this would have been discussed in terms of the tactics in the opening stages, and he will be used to a few scenic routes as well, being based in Portland.
Being from Portland, we're going to expect to see good climbing from him today.
Oh yeah.
There, you don't go riding in Portland without going uphill very soon. So we can expect to see a good showing from him, hopefully, on the mountains, on the hills today. As I mentioned yesterday, Donald, he's being trained by O'Neill Samuels, former, I think, multiple-time national champion of Jamaica, and raced overseas in Atlanta for many years before coming back to Jamaica. So he's very familiar with these riders and I'm sure he's schooled his young team in what to expect. But very good mentor for these riders and very accomplished national rider.
So we're working to get back the live shot, but yeah, again, him being out in front, mentioned before that there would be a conversation in terms of what to expect in the opening stages, and he's just leading the pack there.
I don't know what he's doing out there, maybe just going out there and getting some airtime on TV. It's not uncommon to do that, get his sponsors some recognition. You can see that the field behind him isn't quite too very concerned or moved by his presence out there. He's not going to be out there very much longer. He's just having a stroll. And you can see that the action hasn't really heated up yet. They're still rolling and warming their legs up. So I wouldn't consider this attack. He's just riding out front. And they're all getting their legs warm now.
It is now a top two at the moment. We are closing the gap. Most eyes would be on the red jersey that you spot in the chasing pack. He's the leader, of course, and it's Garano.
And we have Amit Roach coming across the gap here. So he's always ready for a good ride and a rumble. So if this group swells to 6 or 7 riders, I think we may see them saying, okay guys, let's give this a gander, let's give this a shot and see how far we can go with it. But I don't see a breakaway going this early. We still have the first King of the Mountains climb coming up at Spring Hill, which I think we're about maybe 10k from that, so we can expect to see a little action when that happens. I don't think we're going to see much changing before then.
Of course, this stretch has quite a few hotels as well.
Very beautiful stretch of road, very beautiful parish, St. James. It's got a bit of everything. It's got the mountains, it's got the sea, it's got the rivers, and it's got the hotels. Very, very beautiful place.
Prime real estate in Jamaica. Pretty close to the Rose Hall area as well, the cyclists now.
Today, a long day like today with the heat and the breeze, it's going to be very important for these riders to feed well and to drink well. Yesterday was a short stage, you could have gotten by with 2 or 3 bottles on the day. Today you're going to see riders having up to 4 to 6 bottles on the bicycle, and they're going to need to be eating and keeping their legs charged with fuel, because today is a long day and the heat is going to take a lot out of these riders.
they're almost back fully together again on this opening stage. They've already gone about 6 kilometers so far in this one. 132 kilometers to go.
The group is compact and just rolling down the road. Here we have Sean Jeffrey. He was in the breakaway yesterday with Scorano and Barrington Bailey. He just ran out of gas. A very valiant ride from him. He's an older guy and a social rider. He's not a professional. So very good showing from him yesterday. We won't expect to see him do very much today. He's a very big rider, and these hills are going to take a toll on him. Here we can see the St. Vincent crew. And the 706 team marshalling the front.
And a dramatic move on the inside we just saw there.
Yep, that's either Peter Thompson or Tyler Hill of the 706 Atlanta team. So it looks like they've come to give a little more trouble today. We'd expect to see those moves being made from one of the two Jamaican teams. They need to take charge of this race today and show and represent themselves better than yesterday. They performed a bit disappointingly yesterday. I'm sure they won't be happy with their results. And when I say that, they had a very good turnout yesterday. 7 of the top 10 places went to the two Jamaican squads. The most important place didn't, though, and they'll be very concerned about that. They had the numbers, they had the legs, and they had the personnel to control the race better than they did yesterday, yet they found themselves chasing the race. The 706 team, as I mentioned earlier, did a fantastic job tactically yesterday. We saw the Jamaican team attack on a few occasions, and as the attack was brought back, one of the 706 team riders attacked, and they did that time and time again yesterday until one of those moves stuck.
So Tyler Hill out in front with about 130 kilometers to go on this second stage of the Jamaica Cycling Classic. We'll be back with so much more coverage after this quick break. Cycling Classic here in Montego Bay as the stage 2 continues with about with less than 130 kilometers to go. And again, not a lot to read into because we have such a long day today. We expect it to be closer to the 3-hour mark in terms of the time it will take to complete this second stage. Of course, on the opening day, one Andy Scarano took over proceedings. We are now seeing Tyler Hill with the lead at the moment, and well, again, he's just basically setting the pace.
Yes, correct, Donald. What they're doing is just riding tempo now. We're not going to see, I don't think we're going to see any action light up until that first climb. It's a long day and there's nothing to race for here yet. So we're probably going to see the first action start at the Spring Hill climb, which I'm not sure how, I don't think we're too far from that now. By my memory, I think we're probably under 10k from that at the moment.
So there's a chasing pack, not too perturbed by what's happening in front of them. But yeah, it is going to be a long day worth of action. It really has been interesting to hear the stories of a few of the riders in this one. Andy Scarano has a really good story. Of course, he's riding pretty much for a cause. There is in the red. He's the overall leader. And, got married in November of last year, Andrew Scarano, and his brother-in-law is suffering from brain cancer, and he has started this thing called Grey Matters, and he's been selling t-shirts just to raise funds as well as awareness for those who have been afflicted with brain cancer. Of course, May is Brain Cancer Awareness Month as well, so he would have gotten a lot of highlights based on his opening day performance. And it's always good to see sporting individuals highlighting a cause like that.
Yes, it's very unfortunate having these problems in your family, these cancers to deal with. But that's life, and oftentimes we get this highlighted. The bicycle racing and athletics is often dehumanized as these athletes just being perfect, and it's very touching when they highlight the human side of life, and draw attention to it. And
highlighting the human spirit as well, and that's what it's all about.
Absolutely, and we wish Andy and his family the best of luck in fighting this.
They have a 15-second lead, the top two at the moment, Tyler Hill, and we're going to get the second rider's name in just a bit, but yeah, they see the gap is widening.
Yes,
I think it may be Wayne Smith who is up there. Yep, Wayne Smith.
He's a climber. He could be tactically riding himself away to build up a little lead before the start of the Spring Hill climb to try win those King of the Mountains points or that King of the Mountains prize. I'm not sure that Wayne will be an overall contender for winning this race, so his tactics may be to collect some of those in-course prizes today. A very, very good climber.
I suspect that there's no panic among the chasing pack, especially in light of the fact that the leader is among them.
Yes.
So they're almost looking at him as an example, so to speak, as to how to tackle this.
Yes.
He, of course, has a lot of experience as well.
Yeah, and he's not going to chase his teammate down the road. That's up to other people to do. But there's a long way to go, and 15 seconds gap this far out is really nothing to worry about. I think we're probably going to see gaps at the finish line today of 30 seconds, 50 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes.
At the finish line?
Yes.
Yeah, because yesterday it was about a minute or a little less than a minute?
I would think it was a little less or a little more than a minute. Decent gap. Today
that was the shortest stage.
Today we're going to see much bigger gaps because of the hills. There's Sean Jeffrey on the front yesterday. A really good ride yesterday by him. Just ran out of gas at one of the punchy climbs on the turnaround.
The patience of Jamaican drivers are tested when these things occur, and that's why it's always necessary to have police escort along the way.
Very necessary. The drivers often are more curious than annoyed. And Jamaican drivers, though we give them a hard time, they really love cyclists and they really look out for cyclists. We live in a reality where the roads here are very small, so there's not a lot of room on either side. And oftentimes the cars come very close, but they do see us and they do care. And our Jamaican drivers really love cyclists. So when we hear that Jamaica is a dangerous place to ride because of all these crazy drivers, the incidence of cycling accidents to motor vehicles is really a lot less than perceived. Beautiful scenery here of the St. James coastline.
And it's right over Iberia Star at the moment, so look at that coastline though.
Yeah.
That's just wonderful to look at and enjoy. Better on the ground.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's beautiful underwater and above. And the Iberia Star Hotel there is probably, I think we have about 5 or 6K after the Iberia Star Hotel to the start of the climb. It's been about a year since I've ridden that route, so I might be a kilometer or two off, but we should see the first climb coming up within about 10-15 minutes.
In the meantime, same two up top. 25-second lead now. Tyler Hill and Wayne Smith. Hill is in second spot at the moment. It's Smith who is in the lead momentarily. And we're almost 25 minutes in and about 125 kilometers to go. They're going all the way into St. Anne, Discovery Bay, and they'll turn around and head back to Witter Village to Montego Bay. And it's overcast this morning, so it's a little bit better for the cyclists. And obviously better than yesterday, because yesterday for the majority of the time it was sunny, but maybe they experienced a little bit of rain today. That was the weather forecast. It wouldn't be strange to see rain on the highway, to be fair.
It would actually be a blessing to these riders. As long as the rain, if it's a light rain, it'll be a blessing to cool them off and help them stay a bit more refreshed, because the heat out there is grueling. If it's a heavy downpour, it can be a little nasty out there with the wheels kicking up mud into the face of the riders behind. So that's a bit unpleasant. If it's a light rain, it will be welcomed by the riders.
Now they're about to enter Greenwood and Greenwood Great House as well coming up. So that's their location at the moment as they continue along the highway. They are a few kilometers away from the Salt Marsh area.
Some interesting trivia on Wayne Smith, who is out front. He's an older rider. He's 50 plus years old and consistently finishes in the top 10 of national races with the elite riders. And he's also a very, very good time trialist, racing against the clock. I've raced with him a few times and I haven't beaten him recently. He's in real good shape. I've come second to him a few times in the last couple of years, but he's a real top rider. And been in the sport a very long time. I remember him when I started racing about 25 years ago. He was there as a youngster and he's still there now, and I don't think he's taken a break off his bike in all that time. So, real stalwart of our sport.
Yeah, they'll be passing a few fishing villages along the way as well, these riders. Along that stretch as they pass the Greenwood area. See that line of traffic behind them? As,
That's most of those are the race support convoy, which needs to be a very organized part of the race, because that provides food, spare parts, spare tires, advice, time gap information to all the riders, as well as refreshments.
Which they wouldn't necessarily need right now.
They're not going to need that now, but they're going to need a lot of assistance from the car today, because, as I said before, some of these riders will drink 6 bottles, which is about 4 liters, which is about a gallon of water on this race today.
There'd be an ambulance nearby as well, traveling?
There's definitely an ambulance in the convoy somewhere. Don't often need it, but sometimes we have crashes on the road.
And I guess it doesn't even need to be that dramatic, you know. Just someone just needing a little bit of assistance in terms of hydration issues and stuff like that.
With a race of this caliber, there will be an ambulance, an actual ambulance on the course somewhere.
So sit out in front, there is Wayne Smith.
And Tyler Hill.
Tyler Hill right behind him as well.
Getting themselves some time on the front. It doesn't look like they're attacking this too hard. I think they know that the field is going to come back on them. They're just doing a jaunt off the front.
So it's a pretty simple situation for these two at the moment, as they try to just maintain the lead, but the closing gap is there or thereabouts still. But again, another wonderful shot of the north coast.
Truly awesome, and we can see oftentimes these fires we get in the picture show us which way the breeze is blowing. So we can see that this looks like a cross headwind.
Yeah. I don't know if it's a little bit strange to see the wind going
out to sea,
yes, as opposed to the other way around, but yes, you're right, it does give the indication.
And
we would of course prefer no smoke in terms of, you know, fight against pollution, but
absolutely.
But as far as the indicator for the wind is, it's pretty helpful to know exactly what's going on for the cyclists.
And that wind will probably change as the sun rises higher. It will probably come more straight down the coast, a straight easterly breeze.
So we have about 124 kilometers to go.
Half an hour on the clock so far.
Yep.
I'm thinking today's race may be between 3.5 hours. But it's going to be a long one.
There are the riders biding their time. It's a long stretch.
Pace seems to be lifting now. When you see them strung out like that, means that the pace has picked up a bit. So they may be deciding. I think they've decided now to bring those two back into the pack before the first King of the Mountain climb. They want to. I think the climbers behind don't want to see Wayne Smith going up that mountain before them, because he will surely stay away.
Yeah, the gap is closing.
And on this King of the Mountains climb, Donald, I don't think we might not see the big names like Scarano and the riders that are trying to win this race outright over 3 days. We might not see them attacking the climbs to collect smaller prizes. They may leave. They may work their way over the climbs at their own pace to conserve energy, and we'll see some of the riders who are looking for smaller prizes taking them.
Lead is down to about 15 seconds now, and it's time for another break. When we return, more action from the Jamaica Cycling Classic.
How long is this break?
I'm not sure. Welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic as we continue coverage of the second stage on this second of 3 days of this cycling event. And really, we have been looking forward to the rivalry expected and the battles, the mini battles along the way. 138 kilometers, the overall distance on this second stage, so they have about 121 kilometers to go. We are about over half an hour in, and I tell you what, it's not difficult to ascertain what's going on here in terms of them just cruising at the moment, because it's a difficult course. There's a gradient, as we indicated earlier, of about 7% going upwards for some parts of it, a couple of hills to climb.
And we're not far away from the first one of those, Spring Hill. And here we have Wayne Smith going again. I think he'd like to get to the foot of this hill alone, and if he does, I think he has a good chance of taking that first King of the Mountains cash prize. We can see the response and the jockeying for position for the start of that climb starting to happen already.
How is that determined, though, in terms of the winner of a particular segment of a race?
What they do is they have a mini finish line at the top of the hill.
Okay.
And we should see some checkered flags about with 200 meters of the climb left to go, so the riders will know that if they get to, so they'll know they have 200 meters to go, and whoever summits the climb first, there's a cash prize. They do them quite often in races, and it adds, in long races like this, it adds spice to the overall thing. Sometimes you find riders sitting on waiting for the second half of the race, or waiting late on to make a move. This keeps the race exciting, and quite often you have the King of the Mountains prizes. You have somebody reaching the top of 2 or 3 riders reaching the top of the climb alone, and they end up staying out there all day. So it breaks up the race a bit and adds a lot of spice to it. And a lot of riders will not be happy to see these 3 King of the Mountains prizes, because it makes the race a lot harder.
Well, they can always catch up, right? I mean, that's the thing.
That's what makes the race a lot harder, having to catch up. Spending matches that you don't really want to burn. You want to have all your matches in your box at least towards the business end of the race. So it causes, it adds it's largely for the spectators and to give riders who may not win overall on the day a chance to win something.
I think Peter Thompson is the one leading at the moment, and he's a part of that 706 team. Peter Thompson, of course, Jamaican, but he's teaming up with the overall leader, Andy Scarano, and Brendan Cornett, as well as John Butler, all of them coming out of Georgia. All a part of that team, and if you would hear the name Tyler Hill, he's also a part of that group of 6 as well. So
it's actually a Portland-based team. The Atlanta riders have come down to ride for that team.
Right.
If you see the jerseys there, O'Neill Samuels written on the side of them. It's his club out of Portland that the Atlanta team are representing. And as I mentioned earlier, Samuels has close ties with a lot of the Atlanta community and the Atlanta riders, because he spent a few years living over there and racing over there.
And by the way, it's a team of 5, I should say, not a team of 6, with the 3 Americans joining the 2 Jamaicans. But
correct.
Yeah. One thing about covering cycling is that you get these shots, and of course this is very much in rural Jamaica, but you don't see a lot of agricultural views on that north coast, but maybe, just maybe, you'll see more areas like this. This is closer to Trelawney, and you expect them to come into view. And
yes, we're getting close to the border of Trelawney now, and I think that's where the climb starts, actually, right on the border.
It is Peter Thompson out in front, just keeping an eye out on who is near him. He looks pretty strong at the moment as he takes on the hill. And you can see that the sun is out and beating down.
And you can see the breeze, Donald, on his back. You can see his number and his jersey responding to the breeze. It's a very strong breeze out there.
Yeah, but some resistance actually.
This looks like the first exit to Falmouth, so we're in Falmouth now. We should be approaching the climb in another couple of kilometers. There's a mile climb here as well, but this is just more of a highway ramp.
So Peter Thompson out in front, embracing the challenge, which is the climb to come.
They're not far from Glistening Waters in Trelawney, which is very, very unique. Well, I think it's the largest phosphorescent lake or inlet in the world. And at night, if you swim in there, you can see the fish swimming. They light up iridescent. The whole place becomes alive with light.
Had the pleasure of going there once. Absolutely beautiful. Actually, I have the permission to actually go into the waters and get a dip and swim, and the effects that you see at night is just something to behold. And there is a chasing pack.
Truly beautiful. If you're in Jamaica and you have a chance to go there, by all means, do it. It's a special experience. Luminous Lagoon.
Such a vibe there, Trelawney. Of course, it's the parish of the greatest athlete we've ever seen in Usain Bolt.
And we're not far from Usain Bolt's school here, William Knibb. We should be somewhere on our left hand of our camera, not now or not too long from now.
It's a different vibe. It's a different spirit almost, just a different side of Jamaica when you talk about Falmouth. I suggest that it was underappreciated before,
yes.
But it really came to the fore when a few of our top athletes would have come from the parish.
And it's also gotten a lot, its profile has risen a lot with the construction of the new cruise shipping pier there. It's gotten a lot more attention and a lot more economic activity there in recent years. We can see the action heating up now. People jockeying, jostling position before the start of the climb. A little mechanical there. You see the chain of that rider in front jump. He's got it sorted and he's back at work. This is one of the St. Vincent riders. It's nice to see them on the front for a change. We missed them yesterday.
Oh yeah, we did. We did. Just one of them actually finishing in the top 10, and that was bib number 32, Andrel Lucky Antrobus.
It looks like we're on the start of the lower slopes of that climb now. The climb is about maybe 2 kilometers. Not a long climb, but it's a very hard drag. And it takes it out of your legs. So they're on that climb now, and we're going to be looking out in about 1 kilometer or so for the checkered flags, which signify 200 meters to the summit.
And generally, it's an indication of cyclists speeding as they try to embrace the hill as well. And it's done in driving as well, especially if you want to conserve the gas.
Yes.
Where right at the foot you're really pressed, and then in the hope that you're cruising in first or second gear when you're actually on the hill.
It works a lot better in the car though.
Yeah, it does. It does. You may end up in reverse if you try that on the bicycle. But yeah, there's almost no comparison there between riding the bicycle and tackling the hill while being in the comfort of a four-wheel drive.
The hill on the bicycle gets real very quickly. So everybody back together now. It looks like that aggression has tamed for a little bit.
It's unfortunate in Jamaica that we're actually heading into a stretch where a lot of motor vehicle accidents actually take place as well.
Yes.
I think because a lot of people just misread the road in terms of the angles and the corners, and they lose control of their vehicles so easily.
Yep, the road is long and straight and easy to lose focus and get yourself in trouble.
One thing that I haven't seen though, because usually driving along this route you'd see a lot of skid marks on the road.
Yes.
Haven't seen many.
Okay, we're seeing
About 114 kilometers to go, and this was actually where they were coming from as they entered into the parish of Trelawney.
I need to correct myself, Donald. I don't think we've started that climb yet. We're on the smaller drags coming up to the climb.
Okay.
So my error, I apologize. The climb will be after the last Falmouth exit, and that looks to be the second to last Falmouth exit there.
Okay.
So we might have one more exit and then one more highway exit, and then we should see the start of the climb.
So the leader still there or thereabouts. Will be advantage at Peter Thompson.
Yep, that's Thompson.
Yep, it is Peter Thompson. He had a bit of an advantage before, so seems to be maintaining that lead.
Seems like he's gone again, Donna. I think I recall that they caught him at one point, and
Yep.
it seems like he's gone again.
He's gone again. Also keep your eyes on the red jersey whenever you spot it. That's leader, Andy Scarano. And right now he is in the chasing pack.
Looking very comfortable.
Oh yeah.
He's going to be watching the action today. The responsibility is not on him to take the race to anybody today. He's going to play more of a watching. I spoke to him briefly last night, and he said precisely that. He said today he's going to watch the action and respond if he needs to and if he can. But I imagine he was being modest there because he looks like he's got the legs to respond to anything that comes his way. But in these multi-day races, Donald, sometimes you have a good day yesterday and today you don't. And you may have a good day tomorrow again. So a bad day is always possible in multi-day racing.
Did speak about the fact that he would be used to the Caribbean because he's been to the Tobago Classic on a couple of occasions as well.
Yes.
And Tobago is known for its hilly terrain.
Yes, in speaking with him, he said he's been all over the Caribbean. He's been to Puerto Rico, he's raced in Puerto Rico, Martinique, St. Martin, and the Trinidad and Tobago Classic 5 times. So and he's also been to Jamaica 4 times. So it's not his first time racing in Jamaica.
Okay.
And he says he loves to be here. He'll take any excuse to be here. He actually skipped a race in South Carolina this weekend to be here. And last weekend, he's in really, really good shape now, and he's riding really well. He won a race just last week, the Southeast Gravel Classic, which is a race entirely on dirt roads, fire roads, and mountain trails.
Right.
And he won that, so we know he's in a real good nick now, and he's leading that series overseas in the States, and he chose to skip this weekend's race up there to do this. So we're glad to have him here, but we know he's in really good shape and someone to watch.
Which may be the understatement of the day. Someone to watch. We considered him off air as a really heavy favorite. Even before the action got underway yesterday, and he did not disappoint. We're hearing that there is now a 50-second lead. Peter Thompson is still out in front with that lead.
Well, I think we should surely see him going over the hill, the King of the Mountains climb alone. That's a significant lead, and I think we're pretty close to that climb now. So I don't think we'll see them bringing him back. So unless I'm getting the distance to the start of the climb wrong, because he is a pretty mean climber.
Of course, with the terrain, it's difficult to keep in touch with the cyclists and get visuals every second of the way.
Yeah, we are reliant on the signal we get, and it's not uncommon. A lot of the European races we lose when they go into the mountains and they go into certain areas. We lose the feed for a minute or two. Not uncommon.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and back with more of the action after this. So, the climb has begun. That's the chasing pack as we welcome you back to our coverage of the Jamaica Cycling Classic. And I tell you what, it's going to take a lot out of the legs there, but it's a relatively steep climb. A lot of drivers in Jamaica know this, and they would be almost feeling sorry for the cyclists as they make their way up and begin this climb. It's not too long though.
It's a long drag. It's what we call a power climb, but it does take a lot out of your legs. It's a big ring climb. You climb this on your big ring, but it's an energy sapping climb. And I wouldn't call it a climb, but it's a very challenging hill.
Yeah.
Not a high mountain. And you can see him working his way up there. I don't think the field will catch him before he summits, because he's a really mean climber, and he's gotten the hill to himself.
Well, he's pumping hard at the moment as he's just continuing to just take a look behind Peter Thompson. And it was a name that we figured would embrace this part of the stage.
He's a Portland rider, and they climb every ride they do there is a climbing ride, so it's no surprise to see him shining on the hills.
Okay. And it's going to get just a little bit steep after this as they are near or in Coral Spring at the moment. And he's going to touch a section of the highway that we'll see 2 lanes going in either direction shortly. Well, yeah, it's going to get a little bit more weary on the legs shortly. You can see the gradual the gradient at around almost 7%.
Yep, he's working his way up. It's interesting to see where the field is. I would just have a feeling that the field is far enough back that he doesn't have to worry about them. There he is crossing the line.
So he has won that part of the stage.
He's won the King of the Mountains, the first King of the Mountains prize. And the chasing field behind Donald may be happy to have seen him go over alone.
We're hearing it's 25 seconds now, the lead.
The chasers may have been happy to see him go over alone. It means that he would get the lone prize, and the whole pack wouldn't attack it and race over it. So I don't think they had any intention of catching him, because one, maybe they couldn't and the gap was too big. So it meant that the rest of the field probably went over this at a decent pace and not racing over this, which the leader Scarano will be glad for that. So I think we'll still race pedal in now until we get to our next feature is the Breakaways climb, which comes about another 10k down the road. And the riders will be picking up a real good speed coming down this hill, Donald. They'll get to about 40 miles an hour, 45 miles an hour coming down.
Truck just been guided out wide because it really has to be done.
I think we caught the truck looking, enjoying the race and not seeing how close he was to that motorcycle there.
Of course, we see a lot of tourist buses on the route as well, and they'll be enamored by the sights as well as what they're seeing now with the cyclists as well, and the coverage that comes with it.
A real treat to see to get to ride behind a bicycle race. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a cyclist.
Maybe. but I understand the feeling that comes with it as well. And a lot of persons on the Palisades Strip would have experienced that on quite a few weekends, actually, if not every weekend.
Every Saturday morning. Every Saturday and Sunday morning.
For those who are not in Jamaica, it's a road that leads to the Norman Manley International Airport.
Okay, we've seen a move by the 706 team. They've gone out. I would imagine that this is Brendan Cornett. He's gone out to see what he can do. If he gets some company, maybe they will start to ride and see what can happen. His leader won the race yesterday,
Right.
so he will be happy to he'll probably have license to go out on the front today and do some fun stuff. And if there is a move later, whatever goes up the road, he's up the road already, so he can join that. But I don't think we're going to see too much attacking from the 706 team, like I said earlier. I think he was just riding off the front to exercise his legs and see if he was going to be followed.
Probably we're just about 30% of the entire way now. With about
Yes,
104 kilometers left. 1 hour in. Time does fly when you're having fun or when you're watching cycling.
Looks like we're approaching Duncan's now, Duncan's Trelawney. That's the old capital of Trelawney.
So there they are, together at the moment. As, you said that they're now in Duncan's.
I believe they're approaching Duncan's or in Duncan's. I think they're approaching Duncan's at the moment. There we go, Duncan's.
That's a sign. Just to know that you know every inch of Jamaica.
I've traveled this road many times by car and bike. We have Amit Raj going off the front. We might not see any real action happening on this leg into the headwind. Although it's a very opportune place to get away for the riders, it's also a very long stage, so we might find the riders conserving for the way back, because the real action and the real damage is going to be done on the Rio Bueno Hill and the Braco Hill on the way back. So there's a possibility the race will break up before that, but if it doesn't, it will certainly tear apart on Braco Hill on the way back. The Rio Bueno and the Braco Hill on the way back. Here we have Amit Raj leading the line, and we see everyone that goes off the front. We see one of the 706 riders on the front, just making sure they keep this race tight and not let too much get away.
Of course, in the Duncan's, near Duncan's would be the Silver Sands Public Beach. As you see refreshments being offered, and Cornet has decided to throw away his empty bottle.
Yep, they throw out empty bottles and they take on new bottles.
Yep.
And the team cars, that's not trash. The team cars will be picking these up and refilling them and circulating them back to the riders. And the riders today, Donald, they're designated feeding zones. So feeding is not allowed throughout the whole race. They're designated feeding zones in which you have to respect. You can be charged or disqualified for feeding outside of the feeding zones.
And just talk to me about feeding. Is that outside of actual, taking in water or liquids?
Yes.
Okay. Because you can drink that at any time, right?
You can drink at any time, and they also need to eat. These riders will probably lose 3,000 calories on the bike today, burn 3,000 calories of energy. So they need to be putting energy back into the body. And a lot of it will be gels. I used to like to eat cheese sandwiches on the bike. You'll get bun and cheese a bit on the bike. Whatever your body likes and whatever you can you can get down.
They take a chance and eat cheese?
It used to work for me.
Okay.
It used to work for me. Thinly sliced cheeses add a little flavor and give me a little fat. But it's largely what the individual riders like.
Anything sweet?
A lot of sweet stuff.
Okay.
A lot of sweet stuff.
How many pounds could you actually lose, though? I mean, you said 3,000 calories, possibly?
We could lose up to 5 to 7 pounds.
Oh, almost like a typical basketball game.
Yeah. And it's mostly water weight.
Right, right. Which you'd have to replenish along the way anyway.
Yes, and that the keeping hydrated in a race is extremely important, because they've studied and we've learned that the body can lose 32 ounces of water in an hour. The body's ability to absorb is only between 9 and 12 ounces an hour. So we need to be putting water in much more rapidly than consistently, because we can only absorb a certain amount an hour. So we can't drink when we get thirsty. We have to keep drinking little bits consistently throughout the race to keep the fluid levels up. And we see a lot of riders getting in trouble with this, what they call the bonks. They'll just run out of gas and the muscles go dead. And you see them start to do what we call pedaling squares. Their rhythm just goes and they're struggling because the muscles just aren't firing because of dehydration.
There obviously will be segments along the course that would see them not have to pedal when they go downhill, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And they would get some sort of reprieve for a while?
Yes, they will.
I don't think I've seen that as yet, though. I think they've been constantly pedaling so far in the second stage.
And a lot of times on the descents, you'll see a lot of the riders just keep pedaling just to keep them moving. They're not pushing, they're just keeping the legs moving and keeping the blood flowing and preventing the muscles from resting or seizing up at all.
That looks to be Peter Thompson again.
That looks to be Wayne Smith again in that striped jersey. I think he's number 33.
Yep, Wayne Smith.
We see
he was leading for a while and then he gave way to Peter.
He disappeared at the foot of the mountain and Peter took it alone. You see a lot of feeding going on there and some confusion.
Almost a feeding frenzy, if you will. You mistake them for piranhas.
Well, you have a very short time to get that bottle from the person beside you, and he's often running.
Without stopping.
Without stopping. And it's possible to break your wrist taking a bottle from somebody on the side of the road.
Well, the good thing is that you don't have to pay for it. It's not a transaction.
Yeah.
It's unlike when we're stopping our cars and trying to get peanuts before the light changes back to red.
Okay, so we're out of the feeding zone now, I believe, once we start descending where the race is back on. So everybody should have what they need on them now.
We're just hearing news that someone was actually picked up by the ambulance, Seda Scully. We're going to try and give you the reason as to why he was picked up by the ambulance. We hope it's not anything serious. We were speaking before that, of course, an ambulance would be a part of the convoy that you see behind the riders, and we haven't received any information as to if he's going to be transported away to another location, but he has been picked up. He is being taken care of, Mr. Scully.
Well, that's unfortunate. Let's hope it's nothing serious.
Yeah, we're hearing it's just cramps, actually.
A little early for cramps to be setting in.
Well, he did take one at him, though, but again, it could have been a hydration issue where
could have been an overnight hydration issue from carrying on from yesterday.
Yes. Which leads me to another subject matter in the recovery that would have taken place in the aftermath of stage 1 yesterday. What would you have done, or what would other cyclists would have done to recover well? Does the ice bath come into play?
Oh, if you have that luxury, yes. But being at a hotel, I don't know if they'd have the luxury of having an ice bath available to them.
They have a tub and they could get ice.
They could do that, and some riders probably do. But after a race, I like to just continue drinking water all day, and all day, just to keep because you're putting back. If you've lost 7 pounds of liquid on the ride, you're going to absorb that back very slowly over time. You're not going to drink
7
2
pounds
liters
of water.
if you even do, you're going to pass it through.
Exactly.
You're not going to absorb it. So
Right.
the importance of rebuilding and rehydrating for the whole day before the next stage is really critical. And if it's overlooked, you might see what happened to Mr. Scully here. The body just hasn't recovered from yesterday or hasn't rehydrated. What I used to do before some races is put a half a teaspoon of salt in the water to retain. Salt helps us retain fluids. Not very easy to drink, but you get that down and helps the body to hold on to more
Because the
water.
electrolytes are obviously very important. So you have the energy. Would you have avoided the energy drinks as well?
I didn't like the energy drinks in a race because I found that they upset my stomach a bit.
Okay.
So I stuck to mostly water and
a little bit of salt.
And I would do a little Gatorade. I did ride with a lot of dehydration pills. They have the salt tablets.
Right.
And I would take one every 45 minutes.
Okay.
Because I'm a profuse sweater. And there are some other riders out there with me. So a lot of these riders will have in their pocket salt tablets, dehydration tablets. Some even have a little flask of alcohol that they put
I'm sorry? Alcohol?
Rubbing alcohol.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Sometimes you see a bottle of rubbing wintergreen alcohol passing around the field and they're rubbing it on their legs to cool them down.
Okay. So many allowances though. Obviously, cycling has been in the news, unfortunately, on a few occasions in terms of doping. But you do see a number of allowances being made in terms of what he can take even during the race.
Yes. Yes. The doping situation in cycling is very unfortunate.
Yeah.
But it's also very predictable, and it seems to be. Cycling seems to be a lot cleaner than it has been in the decade before this. But cycling is probably one of the hardest sports in the world.
Oh, easily.
You have some of these races are 6-7 hours long, and the riders have to be at top RPM for that whole 6 hours. Some of these races are 3 weeks long, and there's a lot of money involved, and there's a lot of on the line, and it's easy for these riders to start looking for any advantage they can get.
Yep.
And 10-15 years ago it became very, very rampant because more of the riders were doing it, and if you weren't doing it you couldn't compete. So it became a disease in the sport, and I think the sport has done a lot in the last 10 years to eradicate it. But it will never be eradicated. It just have to be controlled. And what's helping the sport now is that they developed, the doctors and the drugs are always a step ahead of the cycling anti-doping committees. But what they do now is they freeze urine samples and they freeze blood samples.
So you can check back for years.
So they are able to check blood 10 years ago. And there are people that risk losing medals and losing titles that they won 7 years ago. They may lose it when they discover that they were using an illegal substance back then, but just not being detected. So I think that is a big deterrent for dopers, for people considering doping now, that you may get away with it this year, but you may be called up for it in 5 years.
All right, we're going to throw to a quick break, and we'll be back with more coverage from the Jamaica Cycling Classic. Stay with us. Welcome back to our coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic as we track the riders as they make their way from Montego Bay to Discovery Bay and back. And yeah, it's pretty interesting what's been happening on this second stage. We have about 98 kilometers to go on this stretch, and again, just the majority of the riders are closely together. No surprises as yet.
No surprises as yet, Donald. And I think we won't see a lot of action until we turn around and start heading back to Montego Bay. I think we'll see the first real action on the Rio Buena Hill, which is probably about 3 miles, 5K after the turnaround. So the race should start igniting right after the turnaround. There's a possibility something will go before, but I have a feeling that they'll preserve themselves. Everybody knows. I don't think that the riders need to make any big decisions today because the hills are going to be the decisions.
Right.
So I think we'll see everybody sitting tight until the hills start.
That's a shot of the finishing line, by the way. And we expect them to come into view there in the next couple of hours or so, because we're still on that trek, still on that journey here. As the riders hope to make a mark. What a shot. How beautiful is Jamaica? What a wonderful shot that is.
Really special.
Really is.
And you could see the flags on the finish line there, in the breeze on the flags at the finish line there, Donald. So you can see that these guys are riding into that now. So
at the moment, right.
It's not as easy as it looks, and it's not as comfortable as it looks. They are riding into. And here we have St. Vincent making a push. They were anonymous yesterday, so it's really refreshing to see them trying to take on the race today. And
they're going up a bit of a hill.
It's a drag, yes.
Yeah.
And we have Brendan Cornett from the 706 Atlanta team, just covering that move, making sure that they're a part of everything. I think they've decided that if anything is going away up the road today, they're going to have a man in that.
See the Emilia Bracco village sign there, so we know exactly where they are.
So they have one more climb. This is the start of the Bracco Hill now. And this is a long, very similar to the last one, maybe a little longer. And I don't think
it's as steep though.
It's not as steep.
Right.
It may be a little longer.
Right.
The side the reverse side of this hill is much steeper, and really, at race speed, it's really hard to deal with that hill. On a training ride, you go over that hill with no problem. But in a race, you have speeds of up to 22 miles an hour going over that hill, and the legs really start to cry.
Look how they're pumping right now, though. You can see the leader in the red jersey. That's Andy Scarana out of the state of Georgia in the United States, and it was really impressive on that first day. All that a part of the chasing pack there, because these two are ahead at the moment.
And I think they'll be well contained. I don't think they're going to cause too much problems going over this hill, and if they do, they'll be brought back before the start of the next climb.
That's Lucky Angelus, by the way, out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. He actually finished 9th on the opening day.
Very tall rider.
Yeah. I think his brother is still in the field somewhere, which is funny, because Marlon Antrobus was expected to be the one to have been the bigger name, so to speak, heading into this one. There's also another Vincentian there in Zephal Bailey. 3 of them, they have come and they've been trying to make a mark, and it's been rare to see them at the front at any stage of the stages that we've seen. It's
very refreshing to see them riding today, because they were a bit disappointing yesterday. We wanted to see them more, and we didn't. I don't know if they were having an off day, maybe their leader wasn't feeling good, but...
I'm sorry, Scarana took an entire bag. Yeah. Okay, now he's sharing it with his partner in crime. There you go.
What we see happening that bag is full of water, so they give that bag around and then they start distributing it among the team.
Yeah, he was never going to keep it all to himself.
Exactly.
And besides, it would have been more of a burden anyway.
And that's uncommon to see. Usually the leader of the race leader has his food brought to him. He doesn't go and get the food. it's usually gotten by another rider who then circles the field and distributes it to all his teammates.
Showing a little bit of humility there?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
He's still within striking distance, although he's well, all of them pretty much have the cards close to their chest at the moment.
Yes. And they don't seem to be attacking this climb with any great venom. I think they've all decided that we're going to take the first leg, the leg to Discovery Bay, and see what happens, and start racing in earnest on the way back. And oftentimes you make a comment like that, and you'll have riders go off the front, and the winning move happens right before you. That's what makes this sport so great and so
and
interesting.
Unpredictable, yes, indeed.
But I do believe that we're not going to see any major getaways on this leg.
They're encouraged to stay in one lane, the cyclists, right? So he would have to be careful not to drift into
Correct.
The lane for vehicular traffic, and
Correct.
he is pumping away.
And this is the top of Bracco Hill now, so they're heading down into Rio Brac. We have Gallery Joe James right below us, which is a really good restaurant and art gallery. Strangely, if you remember years ago, there was an English goalkeeper named David James.
Right.
Son of Joe James, who owns this gallery.
Okay.
A little bit of sports trivia for us there.
All right. I'll write that one down. But yeah, they're heading down on this one.
And this is a very lovely fast descent.
It is.
Descents like this are reasons we ride uphill in the first place.
It is such a relief when you actually are able to just embrace. But with that, of course, we're almost literally going to a valley, so to speak, so the feed would be difficult to maintain. Ironically enough, the higher you go, the better it is for coverage of cycling at times, because sometimes the higher you go, of course, with the altitude, that also affects the feed as well.
Yep, and we have it's a common thing for cycle racing to lose feed here and there because of weather conditions. Sometimes mechanical breakdowns, sometimes helicopters traveling with transmission equipment have to be grounded. But we hope to have feedback very soon. We can see the finish line there and the breeze tearing things apart.
Yeah, they'll have that tailwind when they're heading back down to Montego Bay, and that would be a little bit of a relief as well.
Yes, they will. And if we will find that the return leg is probably going to be a half an hour faster than this leg. Yes. The speed will be 2/3 or close to double the speed they're doing now. The average speed they're probably averaging about 22 miles an hour on this leg, and they'll probably average about 28 miles an hour on the return leg.
Well, he's pushing, and he's dragging them out, aren't they? He's wanting a response, and I believe that he is getting a response as they try to.
Sure really is. It looks like we have the first bit of rail racing starting here. And the road here on into the turnaround, we have the turnaround is probably about another 3 or 4K from here. So I don't see the race falling apart until that's the very same hill we just came down, Donald. That's where we're going to see the race start to fall apart when we're coming back. So we're minutes away from the first rail action. And then after that hill, we probably have 6 or 7 or 8 minutes before the second hill. So it's back-to-back action. And the race is going to start. The race is going to become a bit of a debris field on the way back. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have 4 or 5 or 6 riders get over those hills alone, and make the rest of the running to the finish line alone. Could be as little as 2 or 3 riders.
But right now, the majority of them together. You see the Jamaicans there.
I think they've all decided now just to make the turnaround and start racing on the way back. St. Vincent is clearly not feeling that, and I don't think this is a particularly good tactic to be attacking here because
I think this is Anchovies again.
Yes, I don't think there's very much gain to be had at this stage of the race. Because he's going to turn around right into a tailwind, and the pack is going to be able to gobble him up pretty quickly. So in my opinion, this is a bit of wasted energy, but maybe he really has the legs today and he wants to go out and prove it.
Maybe.
And I think the rest of the field agrees with me because they haven't really responded with any great urgency to what he's doing.
Yeah, and it is Anchovies.
And you can see him there, he's called it off.
Took him long enough.
He sat up and called it off, I think.
It was just a runabout, I suppose.
Yeah, sometimes these riders go up the road to see how their legs are feeling. There's a climb coming, he wants to go out and blow the legs up a bit, see how they feel, how he's going to be feeling, and
Right.
get a mark for what he may be able to do on the climb. So he may be just testing his body to see how his legs are feeling on the day.
Yep.
Here we have...
That could be Brendan Cornett.
This is John Butler.
Oh, that's Butler.
No, this is Brendan Cornett.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah.
John Butler is on the red and on a bright orange bicycle. We'll see him before long.
Yeah, Anchovies still just ahead though, but Cornett right there or thereabouts.
Yeah, I think they're all going to just make the turnaround. Turnaround is probably in another 2 or 3K at the end of this very long stretch that they're on. And they're one again. Grupo Compacto. That looks to be Tyrone Edwards, aka Snake Man, on the front.
Just remind you of the road there, where there is going to be the turnaround point, actually near Discovery Bay before they head back to Witter Village. The total distance is 138 kilometers, so close to the halfway point. So that's quite some journey. A scenic route, yes, but also very challenging as well for all these riders.
Beautiful aerial shots of where they're coming from there. Really beautiful scenery of the Jamaican, the hilly interior as we call it.
Of the country, yeah. Wonderful landscape, lovely greenery.
I think everybody is friends for another few minutes.
Just for another few minutes.
Until
still quite some way to go. I think it's a little less than the 89 kilometers remaining in this race.
Yes,
we are 90 minutes in.
I agree with you, Donald. I think we're very close to the turnaround point here now, so our mileage has gotten a little skewed on the screen. Discovery Bay, where they're turning around, is so called because that's where Columbus landed when he quote unquote discovered Jamaica.
Yeah, I love you putting the quote unquote discovered, but sure. And you'd have the places like Green Grotto nearby as well. So yeah, a lot of history there in Discovery Bay.
A lot of history, and some of it is still visible on the roadside of Discovery Bay. Some ruins, some old cannons. Very, very beautiful place. And Green Grotto Caves, as you mentioned, are a really beautiful place to visit. You can take a boat ride into those caves. They're
Yeah, we wouldn't be able to get a live feed from Breakaways Caves, I can tell you that.
No.
but so beautiful. Such a beautiful experience going there and understanding what our forefathers would have gone through in terms of making that escape as well.
And the Green Grotto Caves were used as escape routes by the slaves.
Exactly.
Apparently they go right back down to the sea and they come out. I don't know anybody who's traveled the length of them and come out the other end, but I'm told that they go right back to the sea, and they used to hide from the English in there and not be, the English wouldn't go too far in there to look for them.
No, they would have stayed put. That would have been the sensible thing to do.
So we're not too far from the turnaround point is right at the end of this long straight. So we'll be turning around probably within a kilometer of this. We're approaching now the Discovery Bay Marine Lab, and then we'll have the Columbus Park where they're going to make the turn and then head back into Montego Bay.
Haven't experienced the rain so far this afternoon.
Nope, I think the riders would welcome a little rain now, though, as long as they can make those descents on the wet roads. And these roads there are not too many corners on this route, so the rain shouldn't affect them in terms of sliding and losing control of the bicycles. So I'm sure they'll welcome a little rain if we are to have it.
We did see a couple of our riders are from Portland. They are part of that group that involves the leader, Andy Scarano, and the Jamaica Tourist Board, in partnership with the Jamaica Cycling Association, discovered Jamaica by bike. As we take a look at that feature coming up shortly. But this is the turnaround point. This is where the halfway mark is, and this is where it's going to get even more exciting.
We can look for the action to start happening now, and I hope that we don't go to break anytime soon, because this next climb is going to be a firecracker, and it's about 3 or 4K away.
There's a bit of a relief you can sense from cyclists once they realize, okay, this is the halfway mark, and where we're going back, we have an idea of where we're coming from, so to speak. You understand?
Yes, and we have a tailwind now, so the riding is a lot easier. A lot easier in terms of the pedaling, but it's going to be a lot harder because the attacks are going to start coming now, and we can see that happening already. The group is all strung out, and the pace is on here.
So the journey to Montego Bay begins, and so too the intensity picking up, and the riders utilizing pretty much all of the lane that is designated for them, and they're going at a fair clip.
They're going well here. We have Amit Raj swinging off now, deciding he's not going to push that any further. He's going to wait and see what the rest of them bring. And a while ago we saw John Butler of the 706 team just covering somebody made a move at the turnaround. I forgot who it was. It's John Butler for the 706 team, the leaders team, just covering that move. So they're riding very intelligently today. If a bicycle goes up the road, they make sure they have somebody on that. Policing the race very well. Mm-hmm. And that's what we saw the Jamaican team not do as efficiently as they should have yesterday. They had the resources and the men to police the race much better than they can, and I think they were outsmarted yesterday by the Atlanta team. Yesterday we saw, on the run-in after we had that breakaway go yesterday, the 3-man breakaway Donald, we could see that when the chasing pack was chasing, the rest of the 706 Atlanta team were very close to the front, and every time a rider would come off, the front from chasing, one of them would get up there and slow the pace down and break up the rhythm. So the chasing pack never really got their rhythm and their chase organized because those guys were there to break that rhythm up. Very smart riding, and it should have been down to the Jamaicans to push those guys further to the back and say, hey, if you're not part of the chase, sit back. Don't ride up here and block. And we also saw when that break went away as well, the 3-man break, that the Jamaican team had a rider in it and they started to block themselves. So the chase was really called off when those 3 riders went. And that's why they were able to get such a big gap of 2 minutes. It was really because the riders behind sat up and let them go.
They really are pedaling, you know, and they're really going at a fair clip, these riders, as they begin the second part of this stage. And we mentioned before that the Jamaica Tourist Board, in partnership with Jamaica Cycling Association, they created these series called Discover Jamaica by Bike, and they went to Portland.
Yes, I believe it started in Portland.
It's healthy, it's meaningful, it gives us a chance to see Jamaica. There's actually an opportunity to ride parishes, and we want to encourage some of our touristic partners to build tours and train tour guides to do tours like these.
This is Dennis Chung. We are in Portland, just about 9.72 miles. We have another 60 miles to go to get to Ocho Rios. So we're just breaking into it, you know.
I'm Christopher Issa. I'm in Hotel World in Jamaica. I'm a cyclist, happy to participate in the Discover Jamaica by Bike ride, where there's beautiful sea in the ground.
Hi, welcome to Smokies by the Sea. Today we're serving some coconut water, we're keeping it healthy.
Day 3 was really a rough day for the riders. Lots of hills in Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth. As we're standing right now by Mr. Oral's corn soup pot on Spur Tree Hill. And this ride across Jamaica is helping us to rediscover real community opportunity that tourism brings to Jamaica.
Very manageable. It was a decent day. We had good weather. I think the ride to control on a few of the guys. But the main tour did well, which I'm happy. So we see how best we recover for tomorrow's ride.
Back to the Jamaica International Cycling Classic as the cyclists are heading back to Montego Bay. They were at the turnaround point at Discovery Bay just a couple of minutes before, and really they're taking on the mountains in no uncertain terms, and I suppose it's going to be speeding up once more.
We're going to see the race lit up any time now. We're just approaching the reverse climb, the front end of the Braco climb, and that's the Rio Bueno climb, sorry, and that's a brutal short climb. And we see here, this is John Butler heading out on his own, and they might want to close this guy down because these guys have shown that they're here to ride and they're not afraid of the race. So they might want to start chasing this guy and not let this guy start the climb alone.
Yeah, Mars Hill University, that's where he's from, or that's where his alma mater is, at Mars Hill for John Butler. He said his favorite time being there was to just absorb the sunsets that he would see on a daily basis. It's ironic because he says his biggest pet peeve is people who snore. And I just had to wonder as to how many individuals who he would have experienced that with for it to really be a pet peeve.
Yes, he's going to need to be very careful in his selection of a life partner.
Well, you know what? That's also true.
Research needed.
Yes. I think he has a thing about silence because he says that the best advice he's ever received was practice in silence and let your results speak for itself. And well, he's trying to make a mark on this field, on this second stage.
Good advice.
John Butler.
And here we see at the very back here we see Wayne Smith. That's unusual position for him to be in at the beginning of a climb. We'll see him closer to the front as the climb begins. He's one of our better climbers.
Yeah.
We see Vaughn Pang at the back there. It's either Damien or Vaughn Pang.
Mm-hmm. And also back there as well is Marlon Antrobus. His brother was the one who was leading our comers just a few minutes ago, and Marlon was considered to be probably the better of the two, so to speak, in terms of what we expected for this race, this Jamaica Cycling Classic. His brother is further up from St. Vincent and Grenadines. There's a leader, Andrew Scarano. You see his teammate being out top, and setting the pace at the moment. There is Scornet as well.
Here we have Russell Small in the blue and red there. That's our two-time national champion and very good climber. Somebody to watch on today's climb for sure. If he gets over the climbs well today, we can look to see him in the mix at the end of the stage. And we can see Scorano realizing where he needs to be, and he's right on the wheel of Russell Small there. And you can see the pace. The climb has now started, and you can see the pace, this field being strung out. We're on the very slight gradient part of the climb, and the climb will start in earnest and kick up in about maybe 300 meters. And there it is, road starting to kick up. As we go around that corner, it'll be, the gradient is going to change from very slight to full on. And I think this climb is about 8%, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. So that's Butler in the lead. Just taking a glance, just
yeah, if they don't close him down, he'll keep riding.
Yeah.
Getting a little draft from the police motorbike there. Police will want to get out of his way, stop giving him an advantage, which he's done. Very short-lived. A lot of the times, Donald, you'll see racers get a mechanical, like a puncture,
Right.
and they get cut off from the main field. A very useful tool for them, and it's often overlooked by the officials, is that we have 30-40 cars in the race convoy, and they often use those cars to motor pace their way back up to the field. They use those the convoy as a drafting platform to get themselves back into the pack. Okay, so the climb starts to get real mean right where we see those police motorbikes parked.
Yep. It is a difficult climb, isn't it?
It's a very short climb, and if you're riding this, as I said before, if you're riding this climb on a training ride, it's a really non-eventful climb. It's quite short and not too steep. But when you start tackling this climb in a race, you get speeds going up that climb of 22, 23 miles an hour. That's 40k in the early stages of it. It'll settle down to about 19, 20 miles an hour as it gets to the top. But the pace is the pace of racing over this climb is what burns the legs, not the climb itself. And we can see Scorana looking quite comfortable there. Beside him is the third place finisher yesterday. That's Jerome Forrest, otherwise known as Nick. And here we have on the left hand of our screen Russell Small coming through, probably one of our more prolific climbers, real strong. And you can see that his body weight, his body size to power ratio is almost ideal for these climbs. And they've now brought back, brought back John Butler, and it looks like Scorano looking to make a move here, which I don't think he needs to do. He said he wouldn't do, but
Probably just taking turns at the moment, but
that looks like a move that's going to do some damage, though.
You think so?
Donald, it's created a pretty big gap immediately.
and you can see how it stretched, and you would have predicted that it is going to be a longer stretch.
This is going to be a debris field.
Yeah.
When we come over this, here is Corey Morissette. He's a junior. I think he's just turning 17 or 18 now. Really good young rider.
You know, I just have to smile because this is so reminiscent of a hurricane when it takes on a mountain and how it breaks up and there's a long stretch.
Very reminiscent.
Yep.
Very reminiscent.
And that's exactly what's happening here. So let's call this a tropical wave, if you will.
Yes, and we're going to have another one or shortly after this one is finished. They're reaching the higher parts of the climb now, and I think they've just come over the summit. So this will regroup again. They don't seem to like that they're going to continue pressing this little gap that they have. The field is going to regroup.
They're back at Mila Braca as well.
Yes, and we're going to see them take a truce until the next climb, which is around coming into Duncan's.
And it's a rest for the top two as well.
Yes. Well, I wouldn't say it's a rest for the top two. I'd say it's a rest for the top one. The person in second place may want to improve on his standing, so I wouldn't say he gets to rest.
Got it.
I wouldn't be thinking of resting if I was him, but I would be thinking of what strategy the Jamaican team is going to employ to improve that standing.
You realize that Scarana isn't pedaling anymore.
No, we're coming down the backside of that hill now, and the group is remarkably still pretty big. I would have expected it to shell out some more on this climb. It's thinned out a little bit. I think we probably still have half the riders in this group, so we now have two groups on the road. And there you go. See the bits of the debris field. Some of these riders are never going to get back into contention.
Logistically wise though, is that a little difficult to cover in terms of course, protecting them?
That too, and once these splits start, the people at front don't want the riders behind to come back. It's less people to race against. So there we have Wayne Smith. He seemed to have had some difficulty going over the climb. Usually he's one of the first going over the climb. So that tells me that this climb was pretty hard, and we didn't see how it didn't appear as hard as it was on the bike. But for a rider of Smith's, a climber of Smith's quality, to be that far back after the climb, it means that climb was pretty tough.
By the way, that's a look at Sam Sharp Square in Montego Bay. Usually a build-up of traffic is always there. As people get their things and prepare for the weekend in Jamaica. But yeah, we're almost approaching the 2-hour mark here. So, by our calculation, we have less than 70 kilometers to go in this one. You did say that the second half of this race would be quicker than the first half.
It's going to be significantly quicker. I would say probably half an hour quicker. So I'm thinking we're going to be looking at about maybe 3 hours and 15 minutes for the finish time of this race.
And of course, the wind would be in their backs as they head back to.
We should be looking at 3 hours 15 minutes for the end of this race. If they break under 3 hours, they'll have gone really well today.
So
it looks to be the race leader going over there, followed by Jerome Forrest. This seems like they've just sat up and waiting for the field to come back to them. There we have Russell Small again, one of the St. Vincent riders. And incidentally, one of those two riders, I don't know who came over the line first. This was our second King of the Mountains.
Yeah, that was Scarana actually.
So
Scarana actually would have won that.
He would have taken that second King of the Mountains prize. Amit Roach trying to get back into contention here. To go back to earlier, you asked why it's hard to get back on when you get disconnected on the climbs. Mm-hmm. Those who disconnect you on the climbs don't want you to come back. Is one reason.
That's fairly simple actually now to think about it, but yes, you're right.
And because the less people they're carrying to the line is the less people that can threaten them. And it's much easier to race to the line with 5 or 6 people. It's much easier to formulate a plan against 5 or 6 people than 20 or 30 people. So we'll see that the groups, it's not going to be very easy for groups further back to get on, although it's possible. Some of them will get onto this long train of vehicles and draft the vehicles and find their way back into contention. But as they do that, which I've done on many occasions in this race, I often find myself dislodged on the first hill, and I pedal like hell, and I use a race convoy. I get into connection again, and the second climb starts, and it usually happens again. I get disconnected again, and often don't get reconnected on the way into Montego.
They're heading back to Duncan's, by the way. They're close to Duncan's. So he won the second and third, did Scarano. His lead is actually stretching by the moment, really. A 10-second lead at the moment for Andy Scarano. You did mention that he probably was making a move, and it seems as if you're right, even if it's at such a early stage.
He must think he has really good legs, which we know he does, because he won a race in Atlanta last week, and he won yesterday's stage. So he knows his legs are good, and maybe he's just going out there to ride and take the race to these guys. He told me last night he was going to watch and let the rest of the race happen, and he respond as he needed. But it seems like he may be prepared to take the race. He's feeling good and may just take the race to them and attack them again today.
Well, he's eased up a little bit because they've now caught up with him, but he's still thereabouts. I think Jimmy Butler is also there as well.
I really admire the way he's riding.
John Butler, I should say. John Butler is also there as well.
Brave rider and not afraid to take on the race. Really like his riding style. But it seems like there's kind of a truce now. And I think we have one more climb to come before Duncan's. I don't think we'd have hit that climb yet.
Yeah, I think it's actually coming up.
Yep, I think we might be close to it now. And then we should see, I think we're going to see a few riders get away on this climb, and I don't think we're going to see them again until the finish. So I think this is a very select group of riders. All of these riders in here are very, very strong riders. I think all the riffraff, all the non-climbers have been shelled out from the first climb over Rio Bracco.
Yeah, because we started with over 30.
We started with close.
It's obviously
close to 40. Here we have Corey Mouchette talking to John Butler. There's Jerome Forrest. Now that appears to be Brandon Baker there, also known as Sliced Bread. We have some really interesting names in Jamaican cycling. Really fun names.
Sliced bread. The story behind that probably has to do with eating sliced bread one day. I don't know.
We would have to ask.
We probably would, or not. You know, I mean, either way is good for me. You're watching live coverage of the Jamaica Cycling Classic, and we have less than 70 kilometers to go here as they make their way on the second stage, and it's been a good day so far. Not a lot of humidity to speak of for the cyclists. It's been overcast for most of the way, and they'd actually enjoy the experience of riding along the north coast. There you go, 138 kilometers. That's the total journey. It started at 7:30 this morning, and we did speak of the gradient. That was as high as 7-8% on a few occasions, and they're going to be tackling one very soon as well. So it has been challenging, to say the least.
And we're looking forward to a great finale. The weather has been kind to the racers today. I think they should give thanks for that. Overcast as opposed to sunshine makes a huge difference in racing in the tropics, and we'll see a lot of these riders be fresher for longer as a result. They'll welcome that gladly.
They would.
There you can see the race profile there with the little bumps. It's not a mountainous course, but a very hilly and challenging course.
Yeah.
And the return leg is a very fast return leg, which makes those little bumps and hills even harder to take.
You mentioned that it could be even as much as half an hour less than what they did.
I would imagine it will be with the return leg will be half an hour faster than the leg going. Yes.
We're just about past the 2-hour mark here.
And here we are on the backside of Spring Hill. And we can see a couple of riders gone off. That looks to be Russell Small, and that's John Butler. That's John Butler with him, Russell Small and John Butler taking us up this climb. And when you see this rider, Russell Small, aka Lizard is his name, when you see him out front on a climb, he generally means business, and you want, if you plan on winning this race, you want to bring this rider back.
By the way, both of these riders would have been outside of the top 10 entering today's second stage, and you did say to me that it would be difficult for anyone outside of the top 10 yesterday to really make a mark on the overall standings. You still hold that view? Based on what's happening here, because Scarano is still there or thereabouts, right?
I still hold that view. Somebody from outside of the top 10 could win today and win themselves 23 points and then have a good day tomorrow and win this.
Right.
But it's going to be more difficult if the winners and the podium places from yesterday also do well today.
Right.
And incidentally, that Russell Small who we see up front, he was 11th yesterday, so not very far. He was out of the points, but not very far off the top 10. Here we see Damien Fang, looks to find himself in some bit of difficulty. This is surprising to me because 2 weeks ago there was a race at Palisados, the airport, the Bobby Barnes Memorial Criterium, and he finished in a winning group of 4 riders. I don't know where he came in that, but at least at worst he came 4th. So he was one of the strongest riders on that day, and that was only 2 weeks ago. And he's clearly not having the best of weekends here. So he must have, maybe he's fighting a bit of an illness or something, but it's on.
He also spends a lot of time in the States as well.
He doesn't live in Jamaica. I understand he lives in the States. Here we have Barrington Bailey, second place from yesterday, also known as Buju. He's being followed by Corey Morissette, Montego Bay junior rider, very, very talented young rider.
Yeah, Morissette, a part of the under-23 national team as well, finished 4th yesterday, did Corey Morissette. And of course, Bailey would have finished 2nd and picking up 17 points in the process. Morissette with 8. The top 3, Scarano, Bailey, and Forrest. We haven't seen a lot from Jerome Forrest, but I believe that he would have been thereabouts there. So
we saw him on the first climb.
Right.
We saw him and Andy Scarano riding together. There hasn't been any major move yet, and this climb we should see some explosions on this climb. It still seems like they're pretty compact and together.
Behind these two, of course.
And Russell Small has the ability to ride this all the way to the line. John Butler being with him, he clearly fancies his legs because he's been out front and he's been on the attack 2 or 3 times already today. So it's going to be interesting to see what these 2 riders can do. They have the quality to stay away. It depends on how organized the field is behind. This is not a Jamaica. Russell Small is not riding for the Jamaica squad at the moment, even though he's listed on the Jamaica squad. He's riding independently today. So we're not going to see the 706 Atlanta team chasing this because they have a rider up front. There isn't a Jamaica national rider up front, so the responsibility is going to be on the Jamaican riders to close this down. Scarano is just going to sit back and go for the ride and follow them. If they don't chase this down, he'll be happy. And it seems like Barrington Bailey has picked up the warning and he's trying to pull the field across that gap.
Would Scarano have hopes to win the second stage as well?
He will be considering it, but right now, having a teammate up the road, he'll be happy for his teammate to continue and win it. And if this teammate is brought back, then he'll start reevaluating his chances. If this group comes to the line in Montego Bay, I don't see Scarano winning because there are some very strong sprinters in there. Second place from yesterday, Jerome Forrest. He's a very qualified sprinter. Or third place from yesterday, sorry. He's a very qualified sprinter, so I don't see Scarano winning today's stage in a sprint. But it will first have to come back together and become a sprint if these 2 riders don't stay away. And
Small was just getting some refreshment there as the cyclists, they pass another station to get spruced up for the remaining 60 odd kilometers of this stage 2 of the Jamaica Cycling Classic.
And that exit here would signal the end of the climb. I don't think the riders have arrived here yet.
Well, so still some way away. Just to remind you of what took place from stage 1, Scarano on 23 points, having won it. Barrington Bailey second on 17, 5 ahead of Jerome Forrest, who we're speaking about. Corey Morissette in 4th spot on 8 points. Kevin Price, Brendan Cornett, Alex Morgan and Dwayne Douglas completing the top 8, and the bottom 2, of course, 9th spot from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Lucky Antrobus, and in 10th place, Andrew Ramsey just collected the solitary point.
Of those top 10, Donald, 2 of those are juniors. We have Corey Morissette and also Dwayne Douglas. Both of them, I think, under 18. I think Dwayne Douglas, maybe 16 or 17, and Corey Morissette, I think, about the same. These riders are having some fun and they look like they mean business. So the squad behind is going to have to get their act in order and start chasing this. And Russell needs to get himself back on the wheel of John Butler. And John Butler is looking back and saying to him, come on, son, let's get together, because I don't want to ride the rest of this race to Montego Bay alone. And he knows that they're going to be stronger riding together as opposed to alone. So he wants Russell Small to get back on his wheel so that they can have a better chance of getting to the finish together. If they don't regroup, I don't think this group, they'll have a chance of, any one of them will have a chance of staying out there alone. So they want to get connected quickly. There he goes, tapping his butt. Get on my wheel, son. And come on, Lizard, ride up and get on his wheel, because that's the only chance you're going to have to going. And this Russell Small is a really, really strong rider. So the fact that he was having a little difficulty behind the wheel of John Butler a while ago lets me know that John Butler is going really well too.
Yeah.
So the foreigners have brought with them some really good legs to this race.
What a statement they have been making over the last couple days. The second stage, Butler is the one who is trying to dominate the proceedings.
Yep, they came here to ride and they came here to have fun and they came here to give trouble, and they're doing all those things so far. They've made the race very exciting. It's down to the Jamaica team now to respond and do something. They do have the talent, they do have the riders to pull this back and to get themselves a result. Still, I wouldn't call this any grave danger at the moment, these two being out front. The group still has a lot of road left to pull them back, and they have a lot of muscle to pull them back with.
Right.
And the reason I think this might come back together is because the whole Jamaican team has been left by these two riders, and they need to have a man up front. So I see them getting themselves together and pulling this back.
We're going to take another quick break, and we'll be back with more coverage of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. Classic, our coverage of this prestigious event along the north coast of the island of Jamaica. And we're just about heading into the final hour of this one, and the last about 60 or so, or less than 60 kilometers really, of this event. And thank you so much for your comments. We know that a few people are watching on YouTube as well as on your Home of Champions, as we take a look at what's happening at the moment as they make their way back to Witter Village. Still some way out. Now, of course, they would be in the parish of Trelawney, and they'll be entering St. James a few minutes from now.
Yes, this looks like they're coming to the top of the Duncan's Hill, which would be the reverse of this Coral Spring Hill. We see Russell Small is still out there on his own. It looks like he's either dropped John Butler, or John Butler has gone back to the group at the mechanical or something. But that gap is nothing really to count. He's not far enough ahead to give any threat, and I think this mountain will be over soon and the group will pull him back into the fold. So I'm surprised that we have a much larger group than I was expecting at this late stage in the race. I was expecting...
They're showing some resilience.
Yes, I was expecting to see more damage and see this group more shelled out into a bunch of 5s and 6s, but this is still a nice group of about maybe 15 to 17 riders here. And it's going to be interesting to see how the tactics from here play out. There are some noticeable riders missing from this group, particularly Amit Roach, who I would have expected to be climbing well, and Wayne Smith seems to be missing from this group as well. So some very talented riders not making the cut here. And here we see Corey Mochette, and that looks to be Sliced Bread again, taking a little bit of a rest on the front.
John Butler is ahead of his friend and leader, Andy Scarano. There is in the red jersey, signifying that he's the overall leader of this event, Andy Scarano. And, usually easily identifiable with the fact that they give the red jersey to the overall leader at the start. Butler has rejoined him, and it's right there or thereabouts. Butler would have been outside of the top 10, and figured that he would have been eager to make a mark on this second stage.
The riders seem to be taking a bit of a recovery role here. I think they have a big enough group on the group strung out behind them that they don't need to worry about riders coming back across that gap. You may get one or two coming across. We see some behind the race convoy. They're coming in pretty quickly. Those may be 2 motorbikes. Certainly 2 motorbikes passing there. So I don't think they have any risk of the group, the dropped riders behind coming back. So they're taking a little bit of a recovery break before they go at each other again coming into the finish.
Wasn't very good at math, but it looks as if there are about 13 of them.
I guess 15, so
yeah,
some number around there.
And we started with almost 40, so quite a few would have fallen off along the way.
Yes, a lot of the non-climbers would have fallen off along the way here.
So a couple of Jamaicans leading.
It looks to be about 13 to 17 riders. When we get an opportunity, we'll give you a proper count on that.
Mind you, we should remind you that Small is still out in front, Russell Small, and he has a lead of about 10 seconds or so. Yeah.
I don't think that's enough of a lead to give these guys any trouble. I think they will bring him back fairly easily, although he is a very competent rider and he has won this race before by going out alone, but I don't see him staying out by himself in front of this cadre of riders. And you can see him just ahead there.
Yeah, probably around 8 or 7 seconds.
Yeah, I think they'll be bringing him back in short order.
Yep, So just confirming the leader, Costa Small out of Jamaica, in front. Young man.
Young man, mid-20s. Montego Bay, works in Montego Bay, lives in Green Island, Westmoreland, often rides his bike to work as transport and training, so he's always got his legs with him, and a really, really nice guy. I was on a team, we were on the same team for about a year and a half, the Hotel S team, and really got to know him very well. A really nice and compassionate guy.
You say that he rides to work. It may very well be the way of the future, based on how the gas prices are going.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Definitely have a point there.
But yeah, he does this for fun. He does this for work. And you see the gap there. Probably just lengthening just a little bit. Probably an 8-second lead, 9-second lead at the moment.
Yeah, a nice little gap. I don't think it's enough for him to stay out there, but while he's out there, he's gonna try and stay out there for sure. What he'd like to see is 2 or 3 riders get across to him, which we see somebody now coming across, and maybe they try and really get a gap going and stretch a lead. And it seems he's been joined now by one of the Jamaica riders who's gone right through him. So I'm getting the feeling that Small's legs aren't fully with him today, because he should be jumping on that wheel of the rider passing him. And
they're in Falmouth now, by the way, and they are really making their way with some pace.
So being in Falmouth now, Donald, I would put the finish line at 35k.
Yeah, 30, about that. Definitely less than 40 kilometers.
And it's going to be fast. And I am surprised that we have such a big group still at this point. So it's going to be a very exciting sprint, very exciting finish. I don't see the likelihood of an escape winning this race at the moment. If so, not by much, because it's a pretty flat run-in back to Montego Bay now with a headwind. So if we're lucky, we might see a bunch sprint to the finish today, which will be very, very exciting.
We said that maybe it could be 3 hours and 15 seconds. I'm thinking that they could well clock under 3 hours.
It looks like they're on target to clock under 3 hours. They may clock. They may come in at 2:50. Definitely looks like they're going to break the 3-hour mark today.
What an advert for Jamaica as well, and Brand Jamaica. Of course, they are on board with the coverage as well with this entire race, the classic. And just seeing the shots as you did before of the greenery as well as the shoreline. Obviously, Jamaica is so unique and paradise to so many as well.
And as this race grows, Donald, hopefully in the years to come we'll see a few more stages added to this race. Maybe it become a 1-week tour, and maybe it come off of the main coastal roads and some of the roads go inland, and we see some of the beautiful internal hilly rural roads. Really fun to race on as well. But definitely a great advert for Jamaica and Jamaican cycling. And again, special thanks to SportsMax for embracing this project and bringing us the first full coverage of end-to-end, start-to-finish racing I can remember in Jamaica. And it's a welcome addition for us. You can see the flags on the finish line there, how strong this breeze is. So this breeze is pushing.
Been going at a fair clip for a while, actually.
The average speed on the road now is probably in the region of 30 to 35 miles an hour. That would be 50 to 60k for new language. Sorry, I speak in the 2 languages sometimes. Here we have Butler again gone up the road, and that's Corey Morissette with him.
It's Carano, sorry, yeah.
Oh, that's Carano, sorry, my bad.
Right.
And that's Corey Morissette with him. I don't see them letting this go very far.
Again, just a reminder that Morissette actually finished 4th on stage 1, so You know, he'd want to stay close to the leader as well, knowing that he's in striking distance for both. But Scarano just, if he wins today, Scarano, and he finishes in the top 10, he's the overall winner.
Yes, but if he wins today, he's the de facto winner, unless he has a mechanical or a crash tomorrow, which we don't want to wish that on any rider. But if that came down to a sprint, it'll be very exciting to see this youngster, Corey Morissette, in a sprint, because he's got a very fresh pair of legs on him and he can do some damage in a sprint. So if the group stays together like this, I think we'll see a changing of the winning positions today. I don't think we'll see one of the Atlanta riders winning in a sprint from a bunch like this. That said, we can be assured that we're going to see one or more of them try and get away from this group before the finish. So we should have some exciting racing coming back. This is Wayne Smith, who got, he's some ways behind. He got dislodged on the climbs. So he's having a bad day by his standards. He's usually very, very close to the front in this race.
But he's still pressing, so you have to give him credit.
He is an old soldier. He's not going to give up. He's going to ride his way into the finish.
What's the thinking here?
Oh, the race is on.
All right.
It's going to be attack after attack from here on in, because any of these riders who don't fancy themselves in a sprint is going to want to make a move and get themselves clear of the group, give themselves the best chance to win.
Even further back, a couple more riders as they try to. Well, they're minutes away actually.
Yeah, this is a debris field. Behind that main group, we have a debris field, and the finish, the gaps between the first rider and the rest of the pack could be as much as 10-15 minutes by the end of the race today, Donald.
Butler is coming back in the thick of things.
Yep, they're out to have fun today. They've come to have fun. And that looks like sliced bread with him. I think I'm reading that correctly. Wait to see his number.
When the initial list came out and we saw butter, it would have been interesting if that was correct, because now we'll be saying butter and sliced bread out front.
With all the names we have in this group, it's not surprising that at some point we're going to put a funny sentence together.
This is just a wonderful experience all around, actually. They're
Very
getting
good
by
racing.
another feeding station.
Very, very, got to stay very focused when feeding is happening, because riders are taking their eyes off the road. That's refreshing to see Amit Roach back in the field. I don't know if he was there all along and we missed him, or if he made his way back across that group. I think he made his way back across from behind.
Yeah, because it's more than 13.
Yes.
And
I was deliberately looking for where he would be in that group and didn't see him. So it looks like he's made his way across after being cut off. And that appeared to be the Jamaican coach grabbing bottles there. Jamaica has a very interesting coaching setup. Mm-hmm. Their national coach, Adrian Clark, is also riding this race this weekend. Oh. It appears that he may have jumped off his bike at some point in this race, because that appeared to be him on the side of the road doing feeding a while ago. But he is a rider/coach. He was on the course yesterday with them, which put him in the unique position to be able to coach from the bike yesterday, which is why I was expecting that with him being on the course, we should have seen them have some different tactics yesterday and get a different result.
Well, it just didn't quite go to plan, did it?
And often cycling is like that.
Yeah.
But he did say yesterday that they're calibrating to make sure that they mark these riders better than they did yesterday, and they have a plan today. So he didn't go into that and play too much of his cards yesterday, but he said he'll make sure that they control the race better than they did yesterday. And this is also a learning experience tactically for the Jamaica team, because a lot of these riders are younger, and I think they will have learned from their experience yesterday. I think they were duped a bit by the tactics of the Atlanta team.
Yeah.
And it's a learning experience, because cycling is very different from who's the strongest rider in the race. It often comes down to who plays their tactics better and uses their riders better and uses their legs better. Because oftentimes you have races being won by not the strongest guy in the race, but the people who have made the better decisions or the more timely decisions.
So definitely who's smarter.
Yeah. And
more often than not.
And in fairness, being tactical in a bicycle race is very difficult because every team has their plan. And depending on how another team's plan goes, it affects your plan, and you have to recalibrate and reshuffle and replan in the middle of a race, and it gets pretty difficult.
So we're almost 2.5 hours into this one. We're going to be going into the final stages of this soon.
And for us watching on the screen, I think we're definitely within 48 kilometers of the finish. I think we're probably within 20 kilometers of the finish. So we're much closer to the finish than is being shown on our screen here.
Yep, quite a few refreshment stations along the way as they prepare for the final push, so to speak, in this Jamaica Cycling Classic. So much more to come as we take a look at one of the features as the Jamaica Tourist Board embrace cycling across the country.
The guys are up. We have some new riders this morning. It's good. It's like I said yesterday, I mean, it's a great opportunity to showcase Jamaica from a different perspective.
It's the Jamaica International Cycling Classic. We're here at the finishing line waiting on the cyclists to come on in and join us. But for the moment, they're still quite some way away, quite a few kilometers to go. We reckon that it's probably under 40 kilometers per at the moment, well under 40 kilometers actually.
I would think we're closer to 20 kilometers here.
Yeah,
pretty close
we're just hearing that it's almost 15 kilometers actually from the finishing line. So yeah, business end.
So we're looking at about 15 minutes of racing left.
Which means that they would have come in well under the 3 hours and 15 that we figured. And you're right, the second half of this stage,
very fast.
A lot
very
quicker.
fast. I forgot to look at the time of the turnaround, but I think we're probably
it was a shade. It was a few minutes under 2 hours.
So they've come back really quickly.
Yeah, they have.
Really quickly. I think by the way these riders are riding, it looks like they're satisfied to ride this out to a sprint, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see some of the non-sprinters try and make their own move to get away up the road and possibly catch the sprinters out before it comes to that.
One thing you may have noticed watching, of course, there are a lot of food establishments along the way. There are, of course, this being St. Anne/St. James, you're going to have a lot of jerk centers as well. The rest stops in particular that you'd have seen those signs, you know that there are food establishments there as well, and it's mostly jerk chicken and jerk pork.
And there's some awesome places to stop for refreshments too. If you want to break a drive up and stop and have our refreshments, and
a lot of bars.
A lot of bars and a lot of very friendly people running them and in them, so it's a really great route to travel through these rural areas.
And that's a unique Jamaican experience as well, and a lot of tourists would appreciate that, because they don't want to be strictly on the beach. They want to go to a community bar, they want to talk with the locals, and that happens on so many occasions. I have seen it on so many occasions because that's what they're drawn to.
And we're very welcoming people.
Yeah. It's not just about the beauty, and of course Jamaica is really beautiful. You can tell by these shots, the greenery just stands out.
Beautiful. It looked a while ago from the drone footage that we still have Russell Small out there with that 10-second lead, and it's not growing, it's not getting any smaller, but he's still out there, and he's got a big engine. But I can't see him getting away to the finish line with such a small gap.
I think we're in the Lilliput area now.
He's a former teammate of mine. We rode on the same team, the hotel team, for a year and a half. So I'd be really happy to see him get a result here today, but I just don't see him holding this group off. And I believe that's the second or third attack he's made.
Yeah, especially on the back end of this stage.
He definitely wants this today. This looks to be the Ibero Star climb here now. This is our final real little test drag up to before the finish.
About 12 kilometers to go in this one actually. And there's your leader in the red jersey, Andy Scarano, who is within striking distance. It would be really incredible if he's able to secure back-to-back wins, stage 1 and stage 2. It's going to be a push.
It would be. If he's going to do that, he's going to have to get away from some of these guys, because right there, Corey Morissette is a very decent sprinter.
And he did mention that yesterday that he prefers doing that,
yes,
as opposed to be a part of the chasing pack, so to speak.
Yeah.
He prefers to be chased. So if he's going to make that move, he would have to do it soon, if not now.
Yeah.
And there he is in the red, the overall leader, Andrew Scarano, out of the state of Georgia in the United States. Butler is right there or thereabouts. He finished outside of the top 10 yesterday, so a win here would be critical for any ambition he would have to win the overall thing here.
And there we see Brendan Cornett of his team keeping the race under control. I think we had Jerome Forrest, Nick, head up the road. Very interesting name, Nick. Jerome Forrest. I don't know where we get Nick from with that, but that's the rider's name on the road is Nick. We can see that the 706 Atlanta team is really controlling this race. And anybody that goes up the road, they make sure they chase that down and close it down. You can see riders shaking their legs out there, trying to get blood flow moving. You usually see that with sprinters getting themselves ready for a finale and the sprint to see how their legs are feeling.
Of course, he didn't tell you publicly in terms of his sprinting prowess, but I think he would fancy himself to be a bit of a sprinter in the closing stages, especially in the aftermath of traveling so far.
I'm sure he's going to give it a good shot, but from what I'm told, he doesn't fancy himself as the best sprinter. He's got some of the best legs out there, so that makes you a better sprinter when everybody else is tired. But I think probably the likes of Jerome Forrest, Corey Morissette, the young Sam. I was corrected on WhatsApp a while ago that he just turned 18, both himself and Dwayne Douglas. So they're both now senior riders, just turned 18.
Okay. Morissette, of course, finished 4th on the opening day.
Very impressive ride. And it's very good. The last few races I've done with him on this course, he's not made it over the hills in the front group. So very impressive to see him, and very, very good development from him to see him coming over the hills connected to the front. So he's clearly developing well as a rider and becoming quite a climber. He's lost a bit of weight too from when I last saw him, so he's developing nicely. A year or two ago, he was a very big bone, thick, strong, muscular kid. Looks like he's dropping a lot of that muscle now and replacing it with cycling lean. There we have Tyrone Edwards in the white jersey on the right of your screen. It looks like we've called another temporary truce. I don't think it will be long before somebody else has a go at this.
Yeah, I get the feeling that all contracts have been signed.
I have a feeling too. I don't see anybody really getting away from this. It's possible, but they're gonna have to be really riding. With this tailwind, I think it's gonna be easy for the group to keep them together.
Get the impression that we're probably just around 10 minutes away from the finish here. Based on
we're not far off for sure. And there you can see that breeze. It looks like it's a little stronger than it was half an hour ago. And these riders will be glad to get off of the bike and go get a shower and get some food in them and get ready for tomorrow's stage. I don't think they're going to be as lucky as their European counterparts who get off of the bike, get fed and go straight into the massage room, get an hour and a half massage and then go to sleep and then eat again. Really pampered life of these professional racers. When I say pampered, with fun, because they have some of the hardest jobs in the world doing this day in, day out.
It balances out, so to speak, right?
But who would enjoy getting a massage every day?
It's been an interesting second stage so far. Obviously longer. The journey was over 130 kilometers. And the way how it started, it was at a fair pace under overcast conditions here, and it was only a matter of time before the real sojourn began with the battle at the hills.
Correct. And I am surprised to see so many riders in this group, because the race has been hard and there are a lot of riders here with good legs. And I know nothing of the Vincentian riders. I don't know if they have sprinters on board. I didn't get very much bio on them, but they could be a factor in this final sprint if it comes to that. Which, by the way they're riding now, it appears we're going to have a sprint.
All right, so we're back live with it now, and it seems as if the truce is now over officially. We're about less than 10 minutes away from the finish, probably about 7 minutes away from the finish line. And this is where you begin to separate the serious contenders.
Yes, and here's where you see the non-sprinters making their move. We saw Amit Rauch take off up the road, and it looked like he was covered by sliced bread. I'm not quite sure. There you see Scarano calling his troops up to the front to chase that down. Again, they're not letting anything go without them being involved. A small group forming up the road there now, and Scarano has called his team to get on board and chase that down. You can see 2 of their riders already crossing that group and closing it down. So they're not letting anything get away. And I would, Donald, with the way the race is shaping today and the proving that needs to be done, I think the Jamaican team should be doing much more attacking than they are doing. A lot of these attacks are coming from the smaller teams. We need to see I'd like to see the Jamaican team start to give. They have 10 riders in this race, and they should be attacking one after the other to try wear down this Atlanta bunch.
You know, at this stage of the race yesterday, it was a battle of 2 because Scarano was there as well as Barrington Bailey there as well. So Scarano would have made his move already. He hasn't done so this afternoon. What do you think is the case here? Is it the quality of the field, or is he just holding back a little bit more?
I think it's the quality of the field, and I don't think they're going to let him get away because he's a marked man.
Right.
He is going to try for the sprint, but he did say the onus is on him. It's not on him. The onus is on others to take the race to him. So he's quite happy to stay connected and finish in the top 10.
Even though he's not, finish in the top 10, not necessarily win.
If he finishes in the top 5, I think he's looking really good. But the burden of performance is clearly not on him, and he is riding that way.
If he wins again today, you think it's pretty much game over?
If he wins again today, it is game over. He'll have 46 points, and the maximum anybody else can get will be less than that by tomorrow. So I think they're going to try guarantee that he doesn't finish in the top 3 today. If he finishes in the top 3, I think he has a really good chance of winning this overall. But what I'm not seeing here, Donald, and it's concerning, is the Jamaican team needs to be doing more. You can see the bunch all together here. They're really rolling. There's a lot of waiting to see what happens next happening here.
I was just actually amused by the cars in the outer lane.
Yes.
Just taking their time because they were actually observing the proceedings. Actually.
Yes. Yeah, that happens a lot. That happens a lot. Sometimes they cross lanes looking at the race. It's so exciting. But as I was saying, I would expect to see the Jamaicans making this race happen now. We got 5 or 10K to go. And it seems like they're rolling to wait and see what happens. And I think they need to make something happen here. They're playing right into the tactics of the Atlanta outfit. So somebody needs to get out there and start racing right now.
So we're roughly about 6 minutes to the finish, depending on the pace of these riders now?
Yes, we're right in front of the old Ritz-Carlton Hotel now, and I would think that gives us about under 5K to go. It's hard to say because this stretch is quite long, but we're very close to the finish now, and I'm disappointed to see the race rolling in at this leisurely pace. I'd like to see some attacks here. I'd like to see somebody winding this up to make this difficult for the Atlanta team. Jamaica needs to be chasing this race. Yes, we had 7 of 10 of the top 10 places yesterday, but we also have the most riders in the field. 30 or 40% of the riders in this field are the Jamaican team. And I think they should be attacking the hell out of this field right now with those numbers. And they have an axe to grind today, and I don't see them grinding it, so I'm a little disappointed. That said, I am not on the bicycle, and I don't know what's happening on the road, and I don't know how hard these conditions have been. It's easy to sit in the studio and look at this. So there is real life happening on the road that we're not a part of, but I would expect to see more attacking from the Jamaican.
Unless they have a lot of confidence in their own sprinting abilities, and they'll be saying, okay, everybody's not moving, all right, we're close to the finishing line, I can wait just a little bit more. If anybody tries to sprint, we're there.
That could be their approach. I don't know that they're not other good sprinters from the other teams as well. I don't know the Vincentian riders, and I wouldn't want to be learning about them in a sprint and coming second or third. And I think what we're seeing now with this slow roll into the finish, everybody is getting rest and recovery at this point.
We have about 5 kilometers to go in this race, and it's open to anybody really, I would think.
It's anybody's race at this point, and it looks like we're heading towards a sprint. And we should start, for the sprint coming, we should start seeing the speeds ramp up to about 35, 40 miles an hour for the last 3K to keep that pace very high, to prevent some rabbit from jumping out and taking and snatching the spoils from the sprinters. So we should expect to see when our feed comes back to see the pace that field strung out into one long line and the sprint waiting to happen.
They're somewhere away, the view from this drone shot in Montego Bay, and we're hearing on the ground that they're a little bit over 4 kilometers away, and yeah, still very much a tight bunch we're hearing, and yeah, there you go, still very much close together.
There's a lot of wait and see happening here,
yeah.
Donald, and I would expect that we will see a lot more riding. There are two teams here, the Atlanta team and the Jamaica team watching. So it would be refreshing to see one of the St. Vincent riders just pop a surprise now, or one of the smaller team riders pop a surprise now and get this race lit up.
It's going to have to happen soon. Scarana is in third spot at the moment. He has the red jersey. He's the overall leader. He may be even a little bit surprised with where he is at the moment.
I agree
with
you.
Cruise.
I agree with you that he might be surprised that he's having such an easy ride so far.
Butler is there, and
Butler and Brandon Cornett is there. The whole team is there.
Mm-hmm. The Vincentians are nearby, so too the Jamaicans as well.
And this group has thinned down a bit. It's no longer 30. It looks a little small. I think we've lost about 3 or 4 riders in the last few minutes. Somebody needs to go.
Yep. Butler.
Somebody needs to go. This is playing too easy for the 706 Atlanta team.
What's going to happen here?
I'm expecting to see at any moment somebody like Russell Small or Amit Roach try and ride off the front and see what they can make happen for themselves. Right now it looks to be coming down to a team duel between St. Vincent looks to be well compact on the right side of our screen, and the Jamaicans have taken the left side of the screen, and the Atlanta team is controlling the front.
I think they're setting it up for the leader, you know. He's right there, right behind the draft. He may just come out of the way down. The Jamaicans are now making their move on the outside, or are they?
I think we're having the lead out for the sprint start now, and John Butler is just keeping the pace real high now, trying to prevent anybody from coming around and disrupting them. And it does look like they're riding for their leader.
They are. He was tucked in there, and I think it's just a matter of time before he steps out or steps in, depending on where they allow him to go. But you see the pace is being dictated at the moment with just a few minutes to go in this race. Can Scarano be able to make a move soon?
They might be riding for their rider in 4th place, the 4th wheel behind Scarano. Usually the sprinter is last in that line, and they'll peel off one by one as the lead out starts. So they may be riding for their sprinter behind Scarano, but we'll see. A lot's going to change, and the Jamaican team needs to start coming to the front now and trying to disrupt this rhythm and take over the pace. At
the moment, Scarana is actually sandwiched, so it's going to be interesting to see the move that they'll make now. And I think a move is being made. It's being stretched a little bit as the pace is being picked up.
Yep, they're starting to race now. But I think this race has played out very much to the tactics of the Atlanta team, and if it stays like this, it looks like they're guaranteed a few places in the top 5, which is where the Jamaican team would not want to see them. You want to see somebody like put the pressure on Scarano, make him finish 6th or 7th. Right now he's in 3rd wheel, 2nd or 3rd wheel, but there's still a few 1,000, 1,500 meters to go. Let's see what happens.
Well, so they go scrolling and rolling along.
They're rolling along at a decent clip, and the fact that we don't see anybody coming around this train means that they're keeping a very strong pace, the Atlanta team on the front.
Yeah. Yeah, it would have to be some significant pace to get around them, actually.
Lovely drone shots we're having here to be able to see this action. I hope we get this all the way to the finish. Lovely, lovely action.
Serrano, he's a standout. He's in third spot at the moment. And they're just stretching out a little bit now.
Here we see the deck shuffling.
There is the sprint. And this is how they'll go to the line.
Here is where we're shuffling the deck. Okay, it started. Who's that? That appears to be a St. Vincent rider on the... Oh, that was difficult to see. We lost the feed there. We didn't get the finish there. We'll have to wait for the replay. Very interesting to see that sprint, how it played out. It looked to me like a rider from St. Vincent, and then we lost the angle change. So let's wait to see what happened there. Here we have the replay. That looks to be, if it finished that way, that looks like it might have been Jerome Forrest, Nick, taking that sprint.
And that would be a big move by him. If that was the case, he would have finished third yesterday, picked up 12 points. And if that indeed was Jerome Forrest, it would be a massive thing for him.
Let's see if we can get the finish on this angle.
They're really waiting on it late, though, to make that move.
Yes.
It's almost as if the finish line came by surprise for them.
Yes, and they know where this line was from yesterday. I don't think the line changed. I think we could have seen a much more aggressive lead into this sprint. It played very easily for the Atlanta riders. Let's see how they finished. I think ideally they would have wanted to see the Atlanta riders finish, the highest place finisher of the Atlanta team finish in 5th place. Let's see if that happened. And once the sprint blows up, the deck gets reshuffled very quickly. So we're not going to know where everybody finished until it's read out to us, or unless we can see. Because there you can see the whole card pack being reshuffled.
This was when the move began, and they were literally a few hundred meters away.
Mm-hmm. And you can see Scarano drifting back there, so it seems like he's finishing a little further down. And there's the finish. I would imagine that's Jerome Forrest. It's very difficult to tell from this angle. Oh, Scarano finished in 3rd place. Yes, that is, I believe, Jerome Forrest taking the sprint. We'll have to wait for the officials to give us the official standings. A very entertaining day of racing, though, Donald. Even though the finale could have been a little more aggressive, I think. Very good. I think the Atlanta crew will be very happy with the way they rode today.
Yep, so we can confirm it was in fact Jerome Forrest who came across the line first, you're right. And Scarano actually finished 2nd. So the 3rd place finisher of yesterday came first today. The winner yesterday came 2nd today.
That
so
would
let's
put
just
them
say
tied on points,
it's yeah, well, not tied up. I think Scarano is still ahead. Because Jerome would have finished 3rd yesterday, won today. Scarano finished 2nd today.
You're correct.
Won yesterday.
So this makes for a very exciting day of racing tomorrow.
Yep,
so
much shorter.
Much shorter, so make sure and join us tomorrow to see how this plays out. It's going to be a very, very exciting day 3.
Brenton Cornett actually finished 3rd as well. That's what we're hearing. And of course, he would have finished 6th on the opening day as well. So he has an outside chance there.
Yeah, and that makes the team classification, because there's also a team prize as well as individual prize. That makes the team classification very interesting for tomorrow as well, because there was 1 point separating the two teams this morning, 29 points to 28. Jamaica being 29 and the Atlanta team being 28. So we have very interesting, a lot to ride for tomorrow and a lot on the line. So tune in tomorrow and let's see how this ends.
Yep, it's been a fascinating day of this Jamaica International Cycling Classic. And it's been interesting so far. Just to confirm, the winner, Jerome Forrest, coming across the line, and Andy Scarano, the overall leader, still in second position, and his teammate Brendan Cornett, both Americans coming out of the state of Georgia to really make a mark here.
A very good result, very good result. I'm sure Jamaica will be happy to have won that. And I think the last few kilometers, maybe that's why they didn't have the pressure on this field. They were very confident in the sprint of Forrest, and he delivered in the end. It'll be interesting to see all how the top 10 played out. We'll update you on that first thing tomorrow if we don't get it delivered to you today. Tomorrow promises to be a great day of racing.
So that's it. That's it pretty much for our coverage on stage 2 of the Jamaica International Cycling Classic here in Montego Bay. And well, it's really been an interesting journey so far. We understand who the top contenders are based on what we've seen from stage 1, which took place yesterday, and of course today is stage 2. And we love what we're seeing. Literally, you can see it there. We'll be back for stage 3 tomorrow, pretty much at the same time. So stay with us here on the Home of Champions.
And thanks for joining us. See you tomorrow.
No problem.